Motion. Got a motion, Cole Taylor, a second by Christie Ross. All those in favor of approving their agenda tonight, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, passes unanimously. Looking for the approval and dispense of the reading of the minutes.
Motion to approve and dispense with reading of the previous minutes.
I've got a motion, Mr. Rubley. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Got a second, Mr. Swallows. Any additions or corrections to the minute? Being none, all those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, passes unanimously. We'll move on to item number 3, review amendment GP5.
Want me to talk about that? All right. I think all these, I'm going to be doing a lot of talking in the next hour.
You are.
So, all right. Thank you. So, 'tis the season for some cleanup. And so, these are line item transfers, specifically dealing with the state special ed pre-K grant. And so this is grant funding that if we don't spend, we won't get again. So we're trying to clean that up at the end of the year, moving about $15,000 out of evaluation and testing into some supplies and materials. And we're also going to do that in 72,220 out of a number of lines into other equipment. So again, trying to spend that money through that grant in order to get some equipment ahead of the game, and so we can also have that funding later. So it's a $49,000 line item transfer, and I'll make a motion we approve that.
Got a motion, Mr. Swallows. Got a second from Mr. Lynn. Anybody have any questions about these cleanup movements in the line items? No questions? All those in favor of approving the amendment, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, passes unanimously. I think we'll move on to the next one.
Number 6, there you go. So more line item transfers, but more this time. Again, all cleanup. If you remember back in December, maybe it was November, the board voted to give more money toward employee insurance. And so what ended up happening is that we needed to add some more money toward those insurance lines. As you go down that list, you will see that the majority of those are moving into insurance lines, with the exception of 72,310. We're moving 21,000 into medical and dental services. Apparently, people got sicker this year than normal, so we had to test a lot more at the clinic. So we're having to move $21,000 over to cover that. But again, most of these are cleanup. I will also tell you, our electric bill has been higher. So in 72,610. We're moving out of personnel into electricity for $55,000. So again, I'll make the motion we approve these line item transfers.
I've got a motion, Mr. Swallows. Second from Mr. Rubley. Anybody have any questions about these amendments? Being none, all those in favor of approving the amendment, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, passes unanimously. We'll let you have a note.
All right, number 7. Last one, thankfully. So these are budget amendments. These are moving across lines, and so we're proposing that we take some money out of textbooks, regular construction equipment, and other contracted services. We've got some needs based on some moves as far as teachers go. Alternative instruction program, we moved a teacher into that program, and so that cost us some money that we hadn't budgeted. Same thing with special education program. You're going to hear me talk about this later in budget and finance. One of the issues that we're fighting in the federal budget is that we're getting less money federally because our definition of economically disadvantaged children is the same. Inflation and salaries and all the things that are going is going up. And so what we're facing is that we're having less federal money. So we're having to take some of those employees out of the federal budget and put that into GP. That is the biggest ticket item that you're going to see here is $235,000, so that we can take some of those positions back out of the federal budget. We had some leaves that we needed to cover in health services with medical personnel. We had a mess up on our technology budget that we're having to cover as well. And then the one that always we get at this time of year that everybody's been on this committee has seen every year is cleaning up transportation. We always have higher gas charges or route changes And so that's $97,900 that we're putting in to cover the overage with transportation. So big transfer, but again, that's what we end up doing at this time of year. I'll make a motion that we approve budget amendment number 7.
I've got a motion, Mr. Swallows. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Got a second from Ms. Christie Ross. Any questions about the amendments? Being none, all those in favor of approving the amendments say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, passes unanimously. We'll move on to item number 6, award the beef bid for food services.
All right. That's schools again. Golly bum, I tell you. If I can find all my papers. Well, I'm going to go with what Justin gave me. How about that? I got it right here. So the first one is a recommendation for our fresh beef program. And we took bids, and I believe we only had one bidder.
We had two.
We had
get
two.
$5 a pound, $10
That's right.
a pound.
So Dan's Hideaway Nursery is the one that's $5 a pound, and
Yeah.
I'm making a motion that we accept the low bid on that one. Dan's Hideaway Nursery for $5 a pound.
All right, we got a motion. Got the second, Ms. Phillips. Any questions about awarding the bid to Dan's Hideaway Nursery?
Grant, what kind of volume of that fresh beef was you use?
So we actually only did it at a couple schools this year, and we plan to open it up to all schools this year. Now, what volume, I can't tell you exactly what, but it will be more than what it's done. Again, as I talked to you about our federal, or our school nutrition budget, they've done a really good job of increasing kids eating in the cafeterias. And so we hope, I love using fresh local beef. So the more we can do it, the better we are.
So I'm assuming most of this is ground beef.
It is. Yeah. Think put in like chili or something like that.
We need time to get chicken wings.
All right. Any more questions about awarding the bid? If none, all those in favor of awarding, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, passes unanimous. We will move on to item number 7, award the food services.
All right. So this is the one we only had one bidder. So this is the fresh produce bid. TNT Produce Company submitted a bid. It's $214,255, and so we have done work with TNT Produce and had done what and we're pleased with their services. So again, I'll make a motion that we approve TNT Produce Company for the fresh produce bid.
All right.
Second.
We've got a motion to approve TNT Produce with a second by Mr. Glenn. Any questions about awarding that bid?
Is this in line with what you had last year?
It is. It is.
Any more questions? Being none, all those in favor of approving the bid, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, passes unanimously. Item number 8 is review budget amendments and transfers.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, well, it's,
Jackie had called me late yesterday or this morning saying that he'd gotten a call to, I think they're trying to extradite 2 suspects out of New Mexico, I believe. And he didn't have quite enough money to send somebody to get them both. So he needed to transfer some money out of his law enforcement equipment under the jail, put it in the line that he uses to pay for those contract services. So that's why we're moving $1,000.
Motion to approve.
got a motion, Mr. Rubley, and a second from Mr. Taylor. Any more questions about this budget amendment? All those in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, passes unanimously. Do you have any more budget amendments? You don't. All right, surplus property. I think the schools may have something.
I have a few
It's just 2, 1 or 2 things.
Quite a few pieces from.
I have one Chromebook, I think.
Well, there's another one.
Oh, there's a 2?
Yeah, I think maybe a few. I'll make a motion we approve surplus and put them on bill.
I got a motion, Mr. Swallows, a second, Mr. Rubley. Any questions about the surplus property? Being none, all those in favor of approving the surplus property, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, Passes unanimously. Do we have any public comment? Any public want to say anything? No public comment. Any other business that come before this
We
meeting?
have one.
All right.
We've we awarded a managed IT contract for the sheriff's department. Believe it was earlier this fiscal year. The Ben Longman has said that they will honor that same contract for the county. It's it is still a 3-year contract. It's $1,800 a month for them to manage the county's IT the same way they're doing the jails. And the contract, statement of work, and the quote are all included as item. This is about $400 less than what we're currently paying someone else. And these are local, and we feel like we'll probably get a little bit more use out of it.
And it does give us a better cybersecurity
Yeah.
than what we've actually got
Yeah.
now, which the state is actually
Yeah, they're really
Why?
leaning on us.
leaning on us to do more on the cybersecurity.
And it's less?
Yeah.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion, Mr.
It
Rivers,
is local.
that's right. And it's local too. So, anybody else have any questions? All those in favor of approving, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Passes unanimous. Any more business to come before the Financial Management Committee? Anybody got anything? Accept the motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Got a motion, Mr. Taylor, and I'll second that. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We're adjourned.
Good job, Terry. I can't talk.
Can you not?
No way. It is 6:31. Actually, I'll call this meeting the Budget Finance Committee to order. And the first order of business is the approval of the agenda.
Motion.
Motion from Commissioner Taylor. Second Commissioner Savage. All right, I need to make a motion to amend this agenda. Tonight, we actually have a couple of things that need to be addressed prior to the consolidated budget, because these bear on the consolidated budget. One is the airport budget, which I would like to put as agenda item A. And the other is a review of nonprofits, which I would like to place as agenda item B, which would be at the top prior to one. And also I would like to put, I guess let's call it 1A, which would be old business. We've got some old business we need to take up from the table, and that was not identified on the budget. And I would entertain a motion to amend that.
Motion.
Motion from Commissioner Bolden. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Savage. Anyone want to speak to that motion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now we're back on the original motion to approve the agenda. Any more discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next on the agenda will be the approval of minutes from the previous meeting.
Chairman, I make the motion, we approve the minutes as written with no changes and dispense of the reading.
Motion from Commissioner Savage to approve and dispense with reading. Is there a second? Second, Commissioner Taylor. Any additions or corrections to said minutes? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, I'll turn it over to Carlin Brown.
I'd like to call the Education Committee meeting to order. And we at this very moment do not have a quorum, so we won't be making any motions to pass our last minutes of our last meeting. And hopefully will get here before we get to the other items. But so at this time, we will turn it back over to Scott to continue the items that we will be reviewing together. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, the first item on our agenda would be the 911 budget, and that was tabled last meeting. I would entertain a motion to remove that from the table.
Motion.
Commissioner Ross, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Savage. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we were under the impression, Justin, that there would be some changes in this budget. I'll let you speak to that. Looks like no changes after all.
Yeah, I have not. I know that they had told me there would be another review process, some more discussion, and then it might change the submissions, so we put it off last time. I have heard nothing since directly, so and I emailed Mr. Haston today, and I didn't hear back from him. So I assume that there was no change in the allocation or request, so it's still 230. So they've asked to increase their allocation from 195 to 230,000.
And you all have a copy of this A and B on the front back that I handed out. If you look on the second item on the B side, that is the 911. Looks like last year they were at 195. Dr. Bell, you had a discussion with them concerning this budget.
Yes, I've had that discussion. Of course, as you see, there's only a $4,500 fund balance if you pass the increase along with the city's contribution.
And I understand it had something to do with possible retirement shortfalls.
Yes, their retirement has jumped from like 2% to 10% for what they're paying.
So in this new budget, is there intent to continue with the longevity pay?
And that's Mr. Hastings' intent.
I have a question. So just to for clarity, there would only be $2,500 left, even with the raise, if they continue on the longevity.
Is that not?
Is that
That's my,
what I'm
it
hearing?
goes from 195 to 230, so that's.
Yeah, I last time I had included the, actual budget that was submitted by the 911 to their board. I did not break it down today. I was gonna pull it up. But their budget that they submitted was including the increased allocation requests. Yeah, their change in net position, which is their fund balance, would be, so they, unlike us, have to operate in full accrual accounting, so they have to cover all their depreciation expenses, et cetera. So they're not allowed to run in the black or in the red. They have to run in the black. So their change in net position would be $2,811. So that would mean if their budget goes as planned, they would have a increase of $2,811. So now that they probably could have a shortfall for a year or two, but this year they're expected to see a gain of 41,000. What they sent or what is included in their current year projection for the budget they submitted. But their revenues are expected to be 1.6 million, 1.642, and their expenditures are looking at 1.639. So they're only going to clear about $3,000. They also have to cover their depreciation, which is a very large section of the increase from that last year to this year. Their depreciation went up from 30,000 to 70,000. I think they finally got that new tower up on Highway 8 live, so that they had to start depreciating it.
Is that a normal? That seems awfully tight.
Well,
Is that normal to run that?
I would assume that they, like us, budget to they under budget their revenues and over budget their expenditures.
Sure.
So them projecting basically a wash budget means that they're more than likely going to make some money. Now I don't have their full financial statement, so I don't know their actual net position. So I don't know what their fund balance actually is. All I can see is the change that they're projected by the budget. So
Is there a reason we don't have that? Are we supposed to have it?
we don't generally get it.
Oh,
We
okay.
normally have
That's my question.
normally we just get the allocation.
Oh,
But that's a $35,000 boost.
The 70.
Looks like we're paying for the longevity. 70 because they get the same from the city.
Yeah, the 70, and it, honestly, looking at it, it may be that the entire increase was to cover the depreciation on the tower, because they asked for a combined $70,000 increase from the county and city, and that's exactly what their depreciation expense went up this year. I can't speak for Chuck, but that's what it seems like to me, like, looking at it, because the longevity was in there last year. Like it's a reoccurring item that they've been paid. The new item is the depreciation.
What is the longevity?
Well, actually, their longevity did go up also. So
Suppose.
it went from 7,500 to 40,000. So I mean, you did have 33,000.
It's a slight increase.
Yeah,
That's a $32,500
wow.
increase. That's $2,500.
So you mean-
What they're asking for.
But we got 100. Looking at the fund balance, they're still gonna be tight. But we've got to figure out why everybody else's budget is running
Lucrative.
smooth, and we're having this big increase.
So there's $2,500 difference in what they asked for, the extra 35 and that 32.5. So there's your answer.
We've got to.
Problem I have is the longevity part.
That's me.
well, their pensions are going up. To speak to what Executive Bell said, their pensions are going up $48,000. Pension costs, yeah. So
That's a 10% increase.
yeah, that's from 2 to 10, and that's going to be the
8% jump in match. Right?
yeah. So they're. I mean, you went from 60 to 108 on that one. You went from 7,500 to 40,000 on the longevity, or it's actually in here is
They got that many retiring, they shouldn't have too many people get longevity.
they actually call it in this budget. They call it employee retention adjustment.
Same
So
potato.
I mean, longevity to me sounds like it's a bonus. This may be raises.
Recurring.
Yeah, it could be recurring. I don't know. But then they also have the $70,000 increase in. They're looking at a $140,000 increase in expenses, and they're asking us to front a quarter of it, and the city to pick up a quarter.
I've got a question. Last year, Warren County employees got longevity bonus.
Yes,
Do those,
they're not. They're
they
not.
don't get that?
911 is not a Warren County department. They are a joint venture. We fund.
City and county.
Yeah, it's a joint venture between the city and the county. So they're kind of an independent entity. So they function on their own.
So you're talking about their revenues. Where do they have revenue?
Their only two revenue sources they cite are the TCA section 786 303s, I think, and that's the ones where like come off our phone bills. And then they this year have started collecting fees for, or they expect in the next budget year to collect $30,000 from new address application. Is my understanding. That's a new program that they just started.
And who will pay that?
People requesting a 911 address.
You have the-
They get charged $200.
$200 an address.
And even if you didn't request it, they made you get it.
Yeah.
I know several people that's got little buildings on property and they made them get 911 addresses for those. They made them get it.
When you need them, you're glad you got it.
Oh, sure.
I can tell you a story about that too. That's for another day.
Well, it looks like according to the fund balance, you're gonna need this, but we're gonna have to address this longevity. If that's going to be a major problem, we're gonna have to address that. We're gonna have to plateau because all the other departments have stayed pretty much within their means, and we're working up on this one annually. So
I believe their last increase was 2 years ago.
how much was it, Justin?
I think we went from 165 to
190.
190, or maybe we may have gone from 160 to 195. I believe it.
I was thinking it was around one. I think we jumped up to 30.
So that's how we're doing the exact same thing this year. So every other year.
And that just makes me feel like it's just the reoccurring of the longevity. Like, you know,
Well, I think there was an issue of, and county executive and I had discussion about this, of retirement match. I think they were collecting for a long time, like 2% just,
Yeah.
and that was not enough for their retirement pool to maintain the pay of the retired employees, so.
I know that the county is fortunate in that we have more active employees than we have
Retired.
drawing.
Mhm.
Now, we have a whole lot that have retired but are not drawing. But if
But we're at 12.2.
so we're at 12 and a quarter, which our mandatory is 10.8, almost 10.9. So
We're good.
the fact that they're still sub 10 is pretty good. But I mean, they clearly had a draw on whatever their pool is. It's run their numbers up recently.
Well, I think we definitely need to have a discussion and decide where this ends. We don't need this to keep going. That's $17,000+ annually. Let's get on up there. All right, what are the wishes of the committee?
Do we have a choice on this?
Yeah, really. We could cut it. We could make a motion to reduce, but since we don't see the breakdown on this budget, it's gonna be hard to say where it comes from. Justin could speak to that, maybe I could, but it would just be overall balance, I guess, Justin.
Yeah.
But with their ending fund balance projected as close as it is, if we do any cuts, we're asking for a shortfall in their budget, correct?
Yes.
I mean,
Their current,
$2,800.
How much are they spending on the longevity or the, longevity?
we went from 7,500 to, what was it? 40,
here's some
32.5.
Good. That cut.
I'm glad she held on. She wasn't.
No, I
I don't know if it's a bonus or if it's recurring salary. Harry, do you know that?
What,
Is that longevity a one-time bonus or is it built in as pay raise?
it's not paid.
It's not, so it's just an annual bonus.
You can make a motion.
If me, if we do it, I'd love to see it built in as a pay raise and longevity thing, because you're, people at the top, longevity to me doesn't retain your employees.
Not if they're near retirement.
And if they're near retirement, they get the most money, but they're gonna stay anyway.
Right.
Because they're near retirement, your problem's down at the bottom.
Right.
Problems at the lower end.
What they're paying, yeah.
Yeah, the
Your
rate-
pay scale is what's killing
Flat
it.
raise would be more fair.
Yeah.
Longevity doesn't retain employees.
We get that rep, we quit. Let's, you don't get it all. at one
No,
time.
I mean, no, down at the bottom, you've got, like, their non-operating revenues, all of it. The city, so. We got $447,000 in non-operating revenues, of which the city and county make up $300,000. I do believe that is there a new funding resolution going or law going through?
They is one that said it passed the Senate to increase the funding on your telephone bill, but it didn't pass the House. Of course, everybody knows it's a 2-year cycle.
Yeah.
So they're hoping the House will pass it next year. There's no guarantee it's election year next year.
Yep, that'd be a tricky one on election year, I'm assuming. All right, what are the wishes of the committee? I think we need to talk to him and explain that for some reason we're seeing pretty level budgets across the board, and this one is an unusual increase. Like I say, if we reduce, I don't know what we could do with that longevity, but if we recommended a reduction there, we could keep them from going over budget. But I'd like to know how it's structured. We really have, we got to consider consolidating budget. Nine. So. Me too.
He should have.
I'd like for him to be here to answer some questions.
Could you call him and see if he could come later? Put it at the end of the budget.
Well, we can't, we gotta vote on consolidated budget.
I mean, at the end of the agenda.
That's what we got.
Consolidated budget, let's consider that after this. So.
Terry you was privy to the meeting, so you might can answer some of their questions.
Not a lot, how much they're getting. I don't, Ron's on there and he don't actually get that information.
I think the biggest hit for them was the depreciation of that new tower and how they have to. I don't agree with that stuff,
Right, but they do.
but I'm not an accountant.
They actually don't lose that money.
No.
And everybody understands that. That 70,000 is there, but they have to, on
They
the
have to.
books, it has to show that it's not there. Then they got hit with the retirement too.
With the, so those double things is what got me.
But I still would love to see them address the longevity.
I do too.
That's my biggest issue. That's-
If I'm not mistaken, you two were on and y'all voted against the longevity, didn't you?
Yes.
Both of you?
So pretty much to remove the 35, or 32.5, whatever it was.
Yeah, from the longevity, but that doesn't mean,
Well, I was only there at the first reading, Carl. I voted against it on the first reading. And the reason I told Chuck what my reason I voted for, I wanted to talk with these guys before I would approve that increase, because I didn't want to be obligating money that they might not have. You know what I'm getting at? You know, Terry was there at the,
Yeah, they just explained to me how they do. Of course, they needed funds. It's like, we didn't even actually vote. It was just a committee meeting.
yeah, the committee meeting, yeah.
Committee meeting, so we at the same time.
This is a tough one without the information.
I
but
sent him a
think-
text.
I
If
had
he'd
it
call,
somewhere.
I'll-
Yeah,
I'll take
But he
it.
is-
See people's-
Yeah.
Now, the question is, and I see where you're coming from. The longevity pay, the increases on the back end, those people that have been there longer, it's not incentivizing them really to do anything. It's a bonus for years of performance, I guess, but I don't know is he saying that this is because of qualifications or?
No, he's basically, the whole problem's been trying to have employee retention. But to me, that's,
So has he been having those issues?
yeah, he's doing it.
Well, I'm just curious, is it the newer employees or the older employees? I think I
Oh, man, I don't know.
I think I could.
Yeah.
That's just me thinking. So
Should be done.
no reply.
Right? Should be done with work. From work. Because I'm gonna get off after the afternoon. Unless I'm on the air at
I would say
the.
that
You can give to
I think,
longevity.
I think we need to at least put them on notice and let them know that we're going to have to. We need to have a meeting and we need to address this longevity. This can't keep going. $17,000 a year. Our contribution.
Well, we don't. Well, I hate to say it, we don't allow others. We don't allow others. We've tried to stick to being.
This is the only wage increase in the budget. Like the rest of the wages are flat.
So
That's
it's bound
bound
to
to be-
include that.
So I technically didn't get the increase that county employees are getting.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so I'm seeing, he says he's got 12 to 14 dispatchers, and then I see 1, 2, 3 other positions. So there's anywhere from 15 to 17 people that he's trying to spread $40,000
Would that-
per person, and we
Would that be close or equivalent to the raise that we
Less.
gave?
less actually. So
Is that,
Well, no,
is that,
Horse
is
doesn't cover.
that just on our?
It's
Is that-
pretty well.
But he's still running with a $2,500.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what I'm saying. is like,
yes.
the rate, we get $2,500 across the board raise. At 17 employees, that's $2,350. At 15 employees, it's $26,666.
And he's got 600 more residences paying the 911 fees, and he's still running with a $2,500. There's still some,
Yeah, well, he didn't have any. He does not have a projected
management
increase
fees we're
in
doing.
those 911 fees. Like
I think
that was
that's-
what
I think it's
across
across
2 years.
Just giving.
With all the new residents and stuff and businesses pay twice as much for 911 as the residents does. And you pay on each line you have to as a business, fax, phone,
Here's the problem with the new people moving in here.
and they're not getting phones.
If you got a different area code,
They're bringing their
they can't
California phones
confirm
with
that
them.
we're
They're
getting the
not
911. Where you come from, they still be getting the 911.
We're not
Because they're using cell phones and they're not getting landlines.
They carry their number with them, and it's an out of town number, but yet you're having to serve more people.
But since there's not rates built in here, that makes
They're not
it neither. This is actually is a race, but we don't know how it's distributed. We don't know if it's loaded heavy on the back end or on the front end. That's the question. But,
We're not gonna fix it this month.
no, but I hope that we could that we could suggest to him that this longevity pay be spread across all the employees, and that would make it a little more fair. And we'll reach out to him and tell him that look, we don't like the longevity for the people that are loaded on the back end because it's not fair to the new employees. If they give the new raises across the board and distribute that money equally, then it's about the same as the county gives. So we'll pass that word on to him.
Would have come in with a better than $2,500 phone balance. We need to do a little
Yeah.
something different.
All right. Do I hear a motion to approve this budget? And we'll make it a point to pass that on to him that we'd like to see these raises distributed equally.
I agree with what Scott is saying 100%. And somebody needs to step up and say, or we need to talk to him and say, this got to change. With that said, I'll make that motion.
Motion from Commissioner Savage,
I'll go out on the limb, like, Tony, I'll second.
Second, Commissioner Taylor,
What is the exact move?
to award them
What he
wage
said.
action to
Okay.
with a suggestion that we discuss with them, the raises being spread evenly across employees rather than longevity percentages change. All right, any more discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Boy, Director Claus, I bet you're looking forward to your budget.
$2,800.
Okay, now we're moving on to new business. And, the first one of A, you should have a copy, that is the airport. And Justin, you spoke to this, there's some money moved.
Yeah, he moved money from maintenance personnel into part-time personnel. Currently has two full-time maintenance employees. One of them has expressed need to go to part-time, but does not want to leave. He does not want to replace them with another full-timer, so he's asking to move that money from full-time to part-time.
Motion.
Motion, Commissioner Bolden. Second, Commissioner Ross. Anyone want to speak to the motion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we're on to B, which is the review of the nonprofit list, and that will be on the B side, the same side that emergency communication was, and we reviewed
It does
it.
need to be updated because it hasn't been done by in the column for it for awarded.
Okay, awarded, yeah, if you will, just for your reference, awarded 25-26, we changed to 230,000 as well. Okay, we every year Budget Finance reviews the nonprofit recommendations, and that's what we're doing right now on B. It's the second amendment. And I talked to Commissioner Ross, who was the chair of legislative, and we discussed this in a nonprofit meeting. And we got some vague rules that we based some decisions on the other night. And Commissioner Ross expressed interest in talking to the county executive as well, getting some things more clear, like deadlines for picking up your funding. Some of those votes in nonprofit were based on the fact that they had not picked up their funding. Some that was taken into consideration, others it was not. And we need to get that clarified. I don't think it's Budget Finance Committee's place to do that, but I do think it's legislative's. And I talked to Christy today, and she said she was considering calling a meeting pretty soon so we could go ahead and get that figured out so that we don't have those miscommunications next year. Terry and I talked about this. I think another commissioner mentioned that it might be a good idea if we have a dedicated day next year for nonprofit review and set that day. If it's I'm just using this for reference because it's about the same time. The Tuesday after Memorial Day will be nonprofit review. And I'm not saying but we need to pick a day so that people can say we weren't informed, we didn't know, and they can know that every year that's for another meeting.
You haven't spoken to me, but I can include that in the budget calendar also.
Okay.
If legislature sets that date, I can include it in the budget calendar. That way it goes out to all the commissioners. It gets spread on the minutes in January.
Those applications and the opportunity to apply goes out in the local publication as well. If we know that date ahead of time, that can be added to that.
Sure. Yeah. And I think pickup date as well. We could put a deadline, and Terry and I even discussed the fact that we put a deadline on picking up your funds, and if you don't pick your funds up by then, maybe even reducing it by a percentage as the months roll on. Just try to kind of incentivize them, because a lot of the premise on not funding some of the departments or some of the nonprofits last meeting was that, well, they haven't picked up their contribution, so they probably don't need the money if they needed it. And one of the nonprofits contacted me And he said, look, I try to get all my receipts and everything from the previous year completed. That's why I wait till the end of the year to pick up my contribution, because I feel like I need to get my receipts submitted before I pick up the next year's contribution. And that was a little convoluted in the rules, so we need to clarify that today.
Now, I do require them to spend the money before I can give it to them.
And
It is in the resolution.
but that's previous year's stuff.
No,
That's this
this year's.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So, but they're allowed to pick up quarterly also. In the resolution, it actually says they will pick up quarterly. Or they can pick up quarterly. I don't know whether it's a requirement or gives them the option. But we require them to spend the money before we give it out, because this is technically a grant.
So basically, reimbursement.
It's a reimbursement grant. So that's the way the resolution is written, that we are establishing a reimbursement grant for nonprofits.
So the question,
So they have to spend it, but most of them, looking at the financial statements I did look at, they're going to spend the part we give them before Christmas, if they have a level spend
It's
schedule.
that thing I see.
So when you say quarterly, you'd only get 1/4 of what we allocated.
Yes. Oh, well, I mean, I think the quarterly is more of a suggestion, but like if you like I'm saying, they can break it up. They don't have to get it all at once. They can come. Oh, I spent, if my allocation is $50,000. I spent 12,500. This I go get some. But then they can spend another.
Okay,
12,500.
it doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be a quarter of the.
No.
Oh, I
But
you're saying
you-
quarter. Okay.
this is a question. What if these nonprofits have a fund balance so low that they cannot spend it prior to picking it up?
That has never occurred, and we have always operated on a reimbursement basis.
Okay.
Even my predecessor ran it that way.
Okay. Well,
We have not changed the resolution since I took over.
Well,
So-
well, for me, and I mean, the one that you're speaking of, I think he did his due diligence like he was supposed to, because he was making sure
But I mean,
he spent his money before he got reimbursed for it.
Anybody that we've given money to, their financials based on what y'all awarded, there's no way that
that would not be an issue. I see that, but that was a hypothetical, but I don't think so either. I've not seen
a
that.
startup nonprofit would maybe have that, but most of them are going to be hitting the fundraiser hard.
Yeah.
To be able to come up with some money, they can spend that money before they spend our money, and then we can just reimburse them, and it essentially puts it back.
Okay.
But that's never come up. We've never had a nonprofit approach us and say, hey, look, we couldn't afford to spend the money that you gave us. But again, they could spend some and come ask for
Right.
some, and spend some and come ask for some.
If they got $2,000 in a fund balance, spend it and come and get $2,000.
Yeah.
So
some of these nonprofits are waiting in order to close the gap, especially Meals on Wheels as an example. The federal calendar is October to September, so the grant season for a lot of these doesn't even begin till October.
Yeah.
Well, that June, July to that time, they're using the allocation. That's why it appears that way, but that's a simple. We need to have that communication. Look, I need to be, it may be easier for you, but it's not necessarily easier for us for y'all to wait till the very last minute. I understand why some of them do the way they do, but it does.
Yeah.
The perception's tough, and when it's a reimbursement situation, they need to be coming getting a big portion of whatever it is that they've got.
Right.
By Christmas, like Justin said.
yes, that brings on more discussion, because our discussion had been, if you approve, come pick up your money.
Yes, now that's the way, to my understanding, that is the way the cities works. The cities is, again, here has to be. So when they send out their letter saying, hey, look, we're ready to start paying, these nonprofits who've got allocations from the city can just go get their money. Because theirs is not written the same way ours is written. Ours is written as a reimbursement grant. Theirs is written as a donation or an allocation.
They actually submit an invoice
Yeah.
to the city. The city pays to the invoice.
Okay.
What's
So
that allocated?
we'd have to change the resolution to do that, which I know is doable, but I don't know if that's the route we want to take. But anyway, okay, so that changes some of these, because we had said, some of the nonprofits had called me and said, just come and get your money. So
I don't think we can do it any other way than what we're doing.
Yeah, 'cause the city and the county are not under the same legal jurisdiction.
The way
we may be bound by
Yeah,
reimbursement.
so.
the way we give out money to these, the way that's done.
Yeah, because our resolution
I think we have to
has the
do it.
TPA.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it has to
Well,
be
that's fine.
designed and laid out as a
There
grant.
may be another TCA
that
That
we
you
can-
can pick up, yes, but that would be a discussion for the
Well, we'll investigate that. But anyway, so, well, that being said, there was one that I wanted to bring up, and that was the rescue squad. I think that the rescue squad was cut from 28.5, correct, Justin?
Yes.
To 25 on the premise that they had not picked up their funding, so they probably don't need it. But I do know there was miscommunication there. And also the fact that other nonprofits were awarded, even though they hadn't picked up their contribution. And I think I had said, and I know other commissioners had said, that we'd like to see the fire departments get up on a level playing field with rescue squad and stay there. With that, I would like to see that brought up there on a level playing field. And we've also discussed where, and I talked to Justin about this, where the fire departments and the rescue squad need to be in the grand scheme of things. And I think we'll discuss that at a later date. But I would really like to see that contribution brought back up, because we didn't award it to the rescue squad because they didn't pick up their money. But then I think the very next nonprofit, if I'm not mistaken, we gave them their contribution, or we recommended awarding it, and they had not picked up theirs either. And I think Ms. Mayfield clarified some things that night in the meeting when she said, "Hey, this is the reason I don't pick up my," and that clarified some things. So I'd like to see that happen, and I don't know what, I'd like to hear some discussion from the committee. I can, for discussion,
First, and then
I can put that in the form of a motion, approving the nonprofit budget with that one exception that we changed that from 25 to 28.5. I'll put that in the form of a motion.
Second.
Second from Commissioner Savage. Okay, discussion, because I want to hear what you guys got.
All right. Do we want to say now that we're going to keep the rescue squad and the rural fire departments?
28.
We're going to keep them from now on at the same.
Oh, well, a motion to do that would only need a motion to change it, so it wouldn't be binding. We
Okay.
could always change it. Okay. Correct, Justin?
That is correct.
We just-
One,
we can just make a motion to change.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
would- it
You
would be
can't
correct.
bind a future
Yeah.
commission.
Make a motion to change that.
Any more discussion? Surely somebody.
You talked quite a bit.
I did. I said a lot. Said a lot. All right, no more discussion. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. So that covers the nonprofit. No, we're not in close. Okay, Justin, get this.
Yeah,
This is Brad's.
yeah, Brad had sent me an email, saying he's had some change, another change with one of his state grants, and the software, the process that he uses, the state has previously been allowing him to use the software that they have paid for. I'm not sure if they changed software or if they just said, hey, you can't use ours anymore. But he needs to be able to essentially pay for some software changes, stuff. So the $3,000, the new $599 down here at the bottom. He actually took money from, I think he took $1,000 from 322 and $2,000 from 499 to create that line item. So there's a net zero change in the budget, but he needs a different line item because he can't pay for software out of the line items he currently has.
Okay. So this is a new line item on his budget.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we're creating a line item and approving this transfer.
Yes.
Do I hear a motion?
Motion.
Motion from Commissioner Bolden. And this is grant money.
Yes.
Second from Commissioner Savage. Anyone want to speak to the motion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next is item 4.
Can we get that one too?
You can. I know about it.
But Beth needs to have internet capabilities in her in the mobile truck, the truck they use to go out and do site visits, because of the change in software with the state. I believe it's the one they're using. They're saying the version they have is not being supported on newer machines, and the newer version requires internet to work. You have to kind of do it in real time. So she's moving $500 from other charges into communication.
You just move money around.
Mhm.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion, Commissioner Taylor, second, Commissioner Bowman. Anyone want to speak to the motion? And Beth, you're not going to implement this till the new fiscal year.
Right.
Okay. All right. Any more discussion? Not all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Now the fun starts.
Let me take my hat off.
I don't want anything on. I didn't have anything to put in here about this one, but I did hear from just about everybody. The only people that I did not talk to directly on the raises only have one line item for salaries in the budget. I know y'all had asked to know if Minnie decided to move stuff between line items. I think I have 8 directors who have decided to shift money from one budgetary line item to another budgetary line item to facilitate additional raises somewhere. But that does not mean that there's only going to be 8 directors who don't use that take advantage of the discretion. I won't know those numbers until we send out the actual raise forms near the end of June. I have heard a lot of people discussing that, hey, look, we probably will, move a little stuff around, but I was on the fence about whether I wanted to bridge budget numbers anyway myself. But I'm kind of leaning towards, I'm one of the ones who's going to move some money.
Okay.
But
You mean like you're gonna get 30?
yes.
I know I asked.
Well, no, I'm actually going to bridge, because I have assistants and I have bookkeepers. So I'm actually going to move money across that space. But I had seven other directors, but some of the others that I spoke to, even though I don't have one eye on them, they're probably going to do the same thing. They just don't have to address it now
As long as it's in that line.
because it's still there. It's in there. It's going to be in their budget to spend when they really spend.
When you do know that, I would like to have that list, please.
Okay.
But you say most of them have been identified already?
Yeah. Well, yeah, the ones that are going to cause a budgetary problem have already identified. The rest of them they'll kind of. Well, I got a lot of them that are sending me what they want to do at the end of the year now. I was like, I need the budget number, not your actual individual changes. So, but that's the. I don't even know if you need
No, that's fine.
action on the raises, but y'all had asked to know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we need to take any action on that. So, all right. Next is Director Swallows, school budgets.
Well, thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure being here for the first 45 minutes.
I'd like to do this line to line if you don't.
Okay. All right. Well, I hope you ordered in something.
That's a joke.
Yeah. All right. Again, first of all, I want to say I appreciate your patience with us. We certainly like to get the budget to you a little bit before, but we had a couple of instances. Mary Jennifer Dunlap does a great job for us, and unfortunately her brother passed away, and so she's been out for several weeks. And I've had a little boy that got unfortunately injured on the Little League baseball field, and I appreciate you all checking in on him, and he's doing much better, wild and crazy as ever. So thanks for giving us a little bit of leeway with this. So what you have before you is the Warren County Schools budget that the school board just passed. Yes.
We need another copy down here.
Okay.
In budget too. For
I've got more if you need it. So the school board passed at a special call meeting about 4 o'clock this afternoon. And so I'm going to try to go through the highlights of that. This is unlike pretty much any budget that I've submitted to you all, because right when I came in, we started having an influx of federal money. And so lots of things moved around. And so we're back away from that opportunity. But what I will say is that I do believe did a great job over the course of the last several years of being able to strategically use that money and then put money back in our fund balance so that we could be prepared for some of the things that I'm going to talk to you about tonight. So what we'll start with is just talking about with compensation and benefits, and you've got a letter there from us that will highlight these things, but we proposed and the board approved a $1,500 salary schedule increase for our certified staff. That will be spread across multiple lines in your budget because we have employees in all sorts of different lines. But if you'll remember, a couple of years ago, we took the opportunity to clean up our salary schedules to where everything was a lot cleaner. And so when we take the money at the beginning, or the minimum salary, then we add that $1,500 across all lines, much like you all are trying to do with your employees, is giving the same raise across the all lines. So what that does for us is that you've also heard me talk about the fact that Governor Lee has put into his budget over the last several years to get our minimum teacher pay up to $50,000. This $1,500 increase will actually put us past that mark, only $500, but we are above it. So that minimum salary teacher pay will go to $50,500. That's up from $42,700 3 years ago. So we've made a lot of strategic investments into our teacher salaries over the course of the last 3 years. With our classified staff, I can't really give you an exact dollar figure, but across all of those lines, there's an average of about 2.83% of an increase, which should be close to that same kind of number. There will be some more the higher up you go, but it'll average at 2.83% across that line. Medical insurance, we've estimated 7% increase in premiums. Of course, that's mandated by the state. We know it's going to go up. We don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but we've estimated 7% across those lines. Of course, our retirement's much just like what we always do. That's actually reduced from TCRS from 6.63 to 5.77%. One item that I'll call on page 2 is from 71-100, line 189, is that we are going to receive money from the state related to the Tennessee Education Freedom Act, Section 4 specifically. Again, it's page 2, 71-100, line 189. And you're going to see that number is inflated because we are receiving almost $1 million for a $2,000 bonus per eligible teacher. Teacher that has been employed 121 days or more and is full time will receive a $2,000 bonus, and that actually is by law scheduled to be paid to the teachers from this school year, not next year. The problem is the state will not make the funds available until July 1. So it comes out of this budget, but we'll have to pay the people from this current school year. If they've left us or if they've retired or whatever, we'll have to pay that out in some form or fashion. But that line reflects a heavy increase simply because of that state bonus. The board did also elect to pay a $1,000 bonus to classified employees that follow that same guideline of 121 days or more that are full time. All right. So with that being said, that kind of covers our compensation and benefits. One of the things that I will also call to your attention is what I talked to you about in the financial management. I can't remember at this point which meeting that was in, but financial management, we talked about the fact that our federal budget is almost half of what it was a year ago. We had about a $9 million federal budget last year. This year, it's going to be about 4.4. Part of that is because of the ESSER 3 money. We know that that's been a windfall for us over the last couple of years, but also a part of that is because, unfortunately, with the definition of an economically disadvantaged child, and that's where that title funding comes in, with the inflation and salaries going up, incomes have gone up, but that definition of economically disadvantaged has not gone up. And so we have kids that are not receiving, we're not receiving economically disadvantaged money for kids that we still feel like are economically disadvantaged.
Because the other one didn't change.
That definition has not changed. So that bottom figure has not changed. So our federal budget is going down. And so with that being said, when you've got salaries in the federal budget that are going up and the federal budget is going down, we have to take into the GP budget several of those, for instance, special education salaries. They are funded federally. And so if you look on page 3, that's 71,200, line 116. 71,200, that's line 116. We're taking on an additional 9 positions that have been moved from federal funding to the general purpose budget. So that's a fairly significant cost. Now, with that being said, we have done what we feel like is a really good job in making sure that when you have less students, that we're being fiscally responsible. And when we have openings that are created either by someone moving or retirement, when you don't need that back, then you don't hire that back. And so we feel like we're pretty much at a wash as far as how many positions that we're taking on and taking back in GP. All right. So we've got a few more because of that 9, but any that we've tried to create, we've tried to offset by the fact that we are potentially having not as many classroom positions as we have in the past. Our instructional program support, according to the letter, of course, every teacher receives a $200 instructional supplies, materials. That's indicated in here. We do a good job, I feel like, providing for our band and our athletics programs. If you've been to the store lately, you know everything's a little bit higher, so we're increasing that line item. But one of the other important things is that ESSER is going away, so we're taking back just under $1 million in what ESSER provided for us a year ago. It's actually $981,500 that we took care of last year in ESSER that's going back into the GP budget. Also, one of the biggest things that you're going to see is the talk about on page 8 and 72,610, line 733. That's page 8. Solid waste equipment. There is a line that's been created for $400,000 to provide a truck for sanitation, and so that has been approved by the board and has been added to the budget. We also have debt service from capital and operation projects that's still covering our ESG loan and our bond payments that we're covering over the course of the last several years. And then we have also added an additional athletic trainer. That's in line 72,130, 499. That's on page 5. Honestly, we've gotten to the place to where only one athletic trainer cannot cover all the sports that we have and all the things that we're doing. We continue to add sports. We've added flag football and add several things in in middle school sports, and she does, and she goes hard as she can. And so the board and we felt like we needed to add an additional athletic trainer there. Also in that we are the request was made to add an additional SRO officer. That's 72,130. That's page 5, 72,130-309. You'll see that increase on that line because we're also we agreed a few years ago to pay for 3 new vehicles per year, and we're in the 3rd year of that, and so that has increased that line. Probably the biggest thing that you'll have a lot of questions for me about is that I just talked to you about the fact that we've put some things back in our reserve budget. A number of the folks in the community have talked to us about the fact that we're wanting to take on some capital projects. And so what the board approved is that we put into our budget a $10 million allocation to take on some capital improvement initiatives. All right. Now, I can't tell you exactly what those are as of yet. I can tell you what the interest is. That is to look at some sports facilities at the high school and at West Elementary. That's also to look at the expansion of the cafeteria at Warren County High School. Mind you, that's still the new high school that's 30 years old. But the cafeteria has long been too small. And so
Was when it was built.
those capital projects are going to be looked at now. And what we have, if you pass this $10 million budget out of reserve, will give us the opportunity to go to our architect, design those projects, get a bid. And of course, that would always come back and you'd have to approve all those bids and so on. But we felt like we wanted to get some money in that line, capital projects line, so that we can take care of those items as they come. Also with our grants and strategic programs, we are happy to report that our technology department has done a great job of receiving about $1 million grant that's going to cut down on some of our costs there. We are still funding the employee health clinic, which I think is a great partnership between the two of us. And that has continued to be something that is very well received by our employees. Last couple of things that I'll mention and then give you the opportunity to ask questions. We are on page 7, that's 72410-139. So line 139, page 7, 72410, line 139. That assistant principal line is going up. And so let me tell you, we have had what we call instructional coordinators for the last 15, 16 years. And so instructional coordinators did not have to be licensed administrators. And frankly, they had to be licensed teachers, but not licensed administrators. And frankly, we're to the point to where we've got to have another administrator in the building. The requirements that are being put on our administrators have just frankly gotten too robust for them to be the only licensed administrator in the building. For example, administrators are the only ones that can give discipline. And we're just to the point to where we're seeing more of that, and we need other people in the building to do that. So we're not adding people. We're simply taking the instructional coordinators, because most of them have a license, and giving them the assistant principal title. And so we're moving them out of one line into another line. So it's not adding people. It's simply changing their title and funding them accordingly. And then the other part is that page 6, that's 72-210-189, 72-210-189, page 6. We are increasing that line about $300,000. We've had some instructional coaches that have been funded at the district level. And one of the things that we continue to get that.
Page 4.
Page 4.
I'm sorry. What did I say?
210, that's 4.
What did I say? 4?
You said 6.
I said part of that. I'm sorry.
It's
It
4
is.
all the way.
Yep. I'm sorry.
I kept looking.
Page 5. I apologize. It's but what we have continually heard is that schools, these coaches that we've had have been moving back and forth between a couple of schools. The schools have said we really could use them at the school level, and so we are happy to be able to do that, and are going to fund those positions through that. So with all that being said, when you come down to the bottom line, we are estimating with our expenditures being right at where we were. I'm sorry, estimating with our revenues being right where they were a year ago. Very similarly, if you look at it, it's almost to the dollar. We're a little bit short on the state, but $200,000. When you're talking about $70 million, $200,000, I guess not a whole lot. But estimated expenditures, we're looking at about 70 million. Now, with that being said, I keep using the wrong term. Revenues are 70 million. Expenditures, we're looking at right at about 86 million, which will dip into our reserve about $15 million. Again, understand that $10 million is something that we're using strategically to do. We've talked to you all about that. People are asking us to take those on. And so we're taking on that. Now, also 1 million of that is being considered for those bonuses. And then usually we're right around about 3 to 4 million every time when we're being conservative as far as our estimates. That still would take us down to about somewhere between 12 and 15 million left in our reserve balance. If we do all of those capital projects, the one thing that I would say to you is that just because we're putting 10 million in there doesn't mean we will spend all 10 million. We're just trying to give ourselves an opportunity to tick off some of those items that the community and our school system has talked about for several years. So it's more of an expenditure than I've ever brought to you. But again, we think this is the right time to be able to take on some of those projects and get those behind us and position ourselves in order to really do some good things. And I think we've done that over the course of the last 3 or 4 years. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any of your questions.
Did you say you had to be licensed for discipline?
Yes.
I caught that, and that just blows my mind.
So all of our folks are licensed,
Yeah.
but you have to be the licensed administrator to administer it.
Administer justice.
And the question was asked at school board if the application for the garbage truck would be enough, 400,000 would be enough. I talked to Josh and through Sourcewell, it's 397, so it's just almost exact.
I love it. We're saving $3,000.
Yep. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Grant on the $10 million you plan to, or may spend, may not spend, I'm assuming that your cafeteria, the needs more over than maybe the wants.
We would absolutely. I think there are some, some of the things have been thrown around with the cafeteria. I've talked about several sets of bleachers throughout the district, including the high school. Their gym bleachers are a mess. West is also with their gym. We've got to do something with them. We're going to do something with them.
Bleachers is falling or
Yeah.
busting apart.
So there's just some things, and that's what I've always tried to tell you is that we're trying to be strategic in taking care of things that are going to position us for the next 30 or 40 years that will make sure that we're doing what we need to do. And I think because we've been strategic over the last 5 years, we've put ourselves in a unique position to take care of some of that without having to come to you to say, we need more money to do that. Now, we may have to at some point, but we're trying to do some of these on our own before we get there.
Could anybody imagine a restaurant that serves as many people as that high school does if it was 30-year-old and it hadn't had a major overhaul?
Well, I was in there 20 years ago, and it was too small then.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's no doubt.
I see where else like that needs to be.
That's Grant, the new traffic pattern, is that something that's being discussed right now?
So magically, one of our plans made it to the internet a little while ago, and ultimately that is the plan that we have put in place. But it is just a plan. So part of that is to take that part right in front of Hickory Creek and to add an entrance and exit for Hickory Creek right there. Now, I can also tell you that might help a little bit. The problem is we still only have one way in and one way out to both of those campuses. And so all the traffic is still going to end up right back on.
Like a little more load sitting, but.
And it probably would allow us to get more off of the road into campus. So that would help with some of that traffic out there.
It's not going to be a huge change.
It's not going to be a huge change until we're able to, and if we ever are able to increase the entrances and exits into that campus somewhere, it's still going to be a struggle. But I do believe giving Hickory Creek an entrance and an exit of its own would be a step in the right direction.
What's the additional SRO?
So, all right, so let me give you back history on that. So Warren County was one of the first to fund all of the SRO positions. And then a couple of years ago, the state decided they were going to start to fund those positions. So we get funding per school number. All right, so if a school has a school number, then they get funding for that, except for our virtual school. So we get funding for 11. Right? So we continue because we have an MOU that has 3 that are stationed at the high school, and then 1 or 2 that's stationed at the middle school. Then we fund 3 positions locally. So the state funds 11, we fund 3 locally, which gives us 14. The request has been that we need to have 1 to be able to fill in situations to where SROs are out. We had an instance where an SRO at Warren Academy had bypass surgery, and so he was out for several weeks, and so we had to have 1 of those from the middle school go and fill in for them at Warren Academy. If one's out sick, then they have to go and fill in, and so it's basically giving a position that's going to still be stationed at a school, but if they have to be taken somewhere else to fill in, then that would give them that opportunity to be able to
So
do
you're
that.
not gonna have a floating person, like somebody,
Who made that request?
Well, I mean, so the school board made the requests, and ultimately that was discussed with me and then the sheriff. The sheriff and I talked, and basically nobody's against the position. The concern that the sheriff has ultimately that he communicated yesterday is that right now he's having a hard time filling positions.
Yeah.
And he's having a hard time filling positions on the road as well. So it's a concern. He has said that he's not going to be able to fill this position for a year. However, at this point, I think the school board feels like we need to be positioned to be able to fill that position whenever we can, because they feel like it's an important thing. Somebody asked me something else, and I didn't answer that.
The question came up at the school board meeting, and I was at the school board meeting, as to whether Sheriff Matheny had said that he would be able to fill this position. I think maybe 6 months was thrown around over there, but this budget finance can verify that at the budget finance meeting when we were reviewing his budget, Jackie did say it will be at least a year. And now I think we're losing another one to retirement. And if I'm not mistaken, they've lost another road deputy. So don't see this position being filled this fiscal year. I think it'd be nearly impossible if you've got one retired. But that question was brought up, and I wanted to say something, but I didn't want to insert myself into education meeting. So
And there was heavy discussion about it. You
Yes,
were there.
absolutely.
There was a lot of discussion about it at the school board meeting as well. Ultimately, the vote went, I think, the way it did because they felt like it was a need made by, requested by the SROs in order to fill a spot. And again, that's why they went through.
Like all of the SROs or one particular?
Well, I mean, again, we don't deal with all of the SROs. They have a captain, and he makes requests and do the sheriff's department. We work through that MOU. There's an MOU that's passed every year between the school board and the sheriff's department. And so that's the discussion with that. One of the things that was talked about in the high school is supposed to have 3. It is a big building. It's one of the things that nobody can argue with, the fact that we want our schools to be safe, and the SROs provide that. Again, I think to your point, I think what the school board was trying to discuss is maybe the X's and the O's of how we can get to this place.
Well, it was clearly communicated when they passed the budget tonight, was they didn't want to take it out. They wanted it to be there if it was possible that he could fund the position. If you take the money out, then you don't have it. But it was a possibility we could get another SRO. The money would be there, even though it was clearly stated that there's like a 90% chance it's not going to be able to happen this year.
Well,
But if it did happen, then the money would be there.
To that point, I talked with Sheriff Matheny just well before this meeting started, and I've lost track of time how long we've been sitting here. But he said that it was exactly as Scott said, he would not be able to fit this year.
yeah, and I think the discussion got a little convoluted with the fact that, okay, if another one retires, then we've got 2 positions that need to be filled, plus a road deputy or 2, I think, that Jackie's short on. And the discussion carried over to, okay, so if we don't fund this one this year, we're going to be 3 years before we get this position filled, which I don't think the numbers were considered correctly, because if somebody retires, the money's already built in for that retired position in the budget.
The math wasn't math.
No, it wasn't.
But also, to be fair, I do believe we have one position at Hickory Creek that Officer Van is set to retire, but he does want to come back. But there's got to be a 60-day window in there. And so that Hickory Creek has got to be covered at that point. And so if that position is not funded, then it would ultimately be, we would have to pull somebody from the middle school or the high school to cover that position at Hickory Creek. If this position was filled, then we could use that additional person to cover Hickory Creek. But again, what you're saying and what Jackie has communicated, we're going to have that need before it's filled.
Well,
so we are going to end up having to do that anyway.
And Jackie has conveyed to us before that if there is an absence, that I've just got to put a road deputy over there. And
I heard him say he needed to go himself.
And the school system is of paramount importance when it comes to, it's easy for me to say, but when it comes to safety, because kids are vulnerable in that position if they don't have this officer.
Yeah.
So in that position, someone in the room asked this question. That position has to be filled by Jackie, a deputy. It cannot be filled through the school system.
It is funded. We fund locally, and Justin takes that funding however Justin does it. That's a terrible way to put it. Justin does what he does and takes our funding and moves it to the sheriff's department.
Right. Yeah, I understand that.
To answer your legal question there, yes. In order to have an SRO, they have to be a certified road officer who has additional training and qualifications in order to work in a school.
Okay.
They have to be
most
employed
of them
by
are
the sheriff.
ex-road deputies.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or investigators.
There's another security officer that you can get, but that's only as a last resort, and they're generally less qualified.
Right. And I think Chris brought that up, that there are some school systems that just don't have enough officers and they're using private agencies for SROs, but that's a huge exception.
But they don't have the same jurisdiction and legal authority that an SRO does, because an SRO is, at the end of the day, a sheriff deputy.
Well, and I will also say this is a great problem to be discussing, because we have been a leader in this, and we have a sheriff's department who is proactive, and we have SROs who have been doing this a long time and are great at what they do. And so again, I think we're very fortunate to live in a place that's made this type of investment in it. And so that's ultimately, I think, where the school board landed with their discussion was that we all are in favor of school safety. Where that's the most important thing that we can do.
You're wanting to put the money in your budget, and when it happens, it's already there.
That was the conventional wisdom of the board. Yes.
If 72,200 at 116 line, you're already going to be at a shortfall, and you're going to be running in the red and dip into your reserves. It don't make good walking around sense to me to fund something this year that you can't possibly fill.
And I have one other, and I don't disagree with that either.
If you don't spend it, it's still there.
I know, but
I get what you're saying on paper.
Yeah, on paper that
I will tell you
the
way the process works is that quarterly, my office sends a bill to central office, and they write a physical check from GP to general fund. And if during that quarter the SRO did not work, that would not be included in the invoice. We invoice for normally we invoice for a quarter of the expenses incurred by the MOU, with the exception of the cars. We invoice for those as soon as they're purchased. But if, for the MOU sake, if it's a school system is funding 4 SROs, but there's only 3 on staff, that we can't legally charge them, so they won't be spending that money. So that money would sit there unspent until the position's filled.
Well, answer me this. So if all SRO offices or positions are filled right now, they want an additional one. What's that additional one going to do? Be like I'm just going based on what I've heard. Is it's kind of like a manager, I guess you could say, kind of a run around, fill in when people are sick, absent, whatever. But what does that person do if everybody's here?
So the one thing Sheriff Matheny said is that they will be stationed at a school. I think initially there was some talk about a floater, and I think that's kind of where that language came out. In my discussions with the sheriff, he said, no, that's not right. They're going to be at a school. And then
they'll just be able to move him because you got one spare at that.
And then Captain Johnson, I think at the board meeting, said that he felt from their preliminary discussions, that person would be stationed at Bobby Ray, which would give them 2. And then that would move them from one to the other. Now, I've not had any of those conversations because
You go by the number of the people at the school.
well, and that's technically the way I think you would go. Now, that's where the MOU discussions come in, and we talk about those type things. And again, Sheriff, I think he's been really good to work with. Again, I think his concern, I think why the board was trying to talk about that was he feels like, as Mr. Rubley said, I've got some holes on the road. I'm going to have to fill those before I fill SRO. And that's why I think he's saying it's going to be hard for a year to be able to fill that position. So I can't speak for him. I just felt like the request had come to us. The board was in favor of it, and it was put into the budget.
Jackie's not bound to this, though. I mean, he's not bound to fill it if he can't.
That's correct.
I would also say that if Jackie does have the chance to fill it, doesn't have the money in his budget to pay the person. So we would have to, and that's something that we don't have to do now, but we can. We would, because there's a budgetary line item as a revenue for the funding that the school system sends to the general fund to reimburse. Because it doesn't just wash off. So we have to show it as a revenue and an expenditure. So we would need to increase I think we could put it in juvenile services SROs. We'd have to increase that by another deputy salary, bump those subsequent benefits.
Mm-hmm.
But it would be a net zero.
It'd be a
Net zero for
budget
general
amendment,
fund.
but it would
But
be-
Do we have to do that upon approving this? Do
No.
we have to do that
But it
now, or
Jackie
address
can't.
it when it comes up?
Jackie can't, like, if Jackie gets somebody who's willing, like, hey, but we all know it can take up to 6 weeks to get the money turned loose.
He would have to wait on us.
Well,
basically, saying, to approve.
Realistically, if you've approved his budget, because it's a net zero, as long as he doesn't hire unless he hires him like day one, there's going to be money in there. There's enough money to pay 3 SROs all year. So those SROs, there's always going to be some space. So there should be 6 weeks
So we
worth
should
of
have.
space.
Okay, I got you.
But just
we
know
would have
that
to get it fixed.
if he hires them, then we essentially have a rubber stamp budget amendment coming down the pipe.
This passed the school system unanimously, right?
Yes, sir.
Make a motion to accept.
Like,
Said it passed the school system or the school board unanimously. I'll make a motion to accept.
Motion, Commissioner Bolden.
I have a question.
I was
Commissioner
getting ready to
Savage.
ask one question.
Go ahead.
All right. Any
Can't
discussion?
believe he's got something to ask.
So you, go ahead.
I know I don't
Commissioner
talk a lot.
Taylor,
Oh,
yeah.
no, you talk a lot.
Yeah,
I thought I let you talk.
Go ahead.
This past year, school board 6-0, correct? Now, I know you have a captain as an SRO. So I'm assuming, as me, I'm just assuming if you get another SRO, he will be your floater. I would assume that as a captain. Well, you know what I'm saying. He's going to float. He's not going to always be at one place. He could be at another place or whatever.
Again, I'll just rectify that and say that the sheriff said
Yeah.
nobody's going to be floating. They're
Well,
going to be to school.
He would be stationed,
He'd
but
be
he would
stationed,
be,
but he could
he would
be-
be a fill-in. He need to move.
And one of the things that he discussed is that when we're having issues with threats of mass violence or whatever, he's having to be actively involved in that, and so he's being pulled away from school. I think that the hope is that we're not trying to pull anybody away from the school. Now, if you get 2 or 3 sick, you're still going to end up having to do that.
Well, I think school safety, I don't know if you can have enough SROs at times. You know what I'm saying, and we've been the leader of this, and I agree with that, but I do think if it passed your committee 6-0, I think it kind of looks not really great as a school board member that this could affect his job. I feel like he should have stepped away from it. I don't think it looks very good, and I've had that brought to my attention from several people, and I I don't think that looked good.
How would it affect his
He's an
job?
SRO.
I know,
He's in
but
another position. That's how
Pardon?
that affects his job. I mean, he's an SRO. I don't feel like he should have stepped away from this and voted.
That's a conflict.
That's a conflict, Carlene. I mean, how do you not see that as a conflict?
no, you said that it affected his position.
It could.
How?
Well, if he becomes captain and he's not a floater, whatever. If he's manager and he's doing this or
Is
doing
he
that.
manager now?
Yeah, he's the captain, is he not?
It would change his job
He's the
description.
captain. It could change his job.
Which is
Why?
conflict.
Because we hired another SRO. How does it change his job description?
Well, if you
Where's he stationed now?
The middle school.
middle school.
One of the discussions was that this new person would be going to the middle school too.
Bobby Ray.
No,
I
Bobby
think,
Ray.
well, again, I don't think we can predict the future on that one.
Yeah.
I don't really know. We've not necessarily had those discussions. Again, the theory behind it would be that somebody would go to the middle school to take, I don't want to say take Captain Johnson's place. It's not going to take his place, but there would always be two. The MOU says the middle school has two officers, but when he's got to go somewhere else and fill in for somebody, that leaves only one at the middle school. And so I think
that's what I'm trying to.
what he's
That's what
trying
I'm
to say is
everybody's-
that it will affect Captain Johnson more than anybody, but he will still be in a school every day according to the sheriff. It may just be different schools throughout the district.
Yeah, and the idea that an additional would be needed at Bobby Ray is based on one, enrollment, and two, he said the campus was really spread out, which, I mean, if you look at the middle school, I think it's probably been more spread out. That's my opinion, but
And that's something we would just have to work with
Right.
Sheriff Athene and
exactly.
Captain Johnson to talk about.
I'm not opposed to this.
I echo what Commissioner Taylor said. I would have felt a whole lot better about this if there would have been one extension. That's-
Would Mr. Johnson, would he, is there a chance that he would profit from this more?
No, there's no financial.
So there's no financial conflict.
Yeah, I think Justin, I let you ask it wrong guy, but from a legal standpoint, that would not cause him to have a conflict if there's no monetary gain or
Not by our regulations. The county, the financial management regulations all speak to a direct conflict of interest on financial basis. Now, if there's some others that govern elected officials as far as legislatures, that's outside my scope.
That's a Robert Bradshaw question.
Well, that's the questions I've had about the position.
I've had a lot of
and
questions about it.
and
That's the reason
it
I
was-
ask. I mean, I
so-
have taxpayers ask me because they hear about it. You know how hearsay is, and you have people come to you. I mean, I've had teachers ask me, "What about this? What do you think?" And I'm like, "You're telling me new news." You know, they're like, that seems like a little bit of a conflict to me, and I'm like, I don't disagree with that. And so that's what I was looking at. That's the only thing. I agree with Christie too. If you can't fill the position in a year, why do you want to put it in there when you're afraid you may shortfall on other areas too? I agree with that too, but at the same time, I would,
You might be able to.
you may be
Somebody
able
move
to
in
fill
here.
it in 6 months. Who knows? And
Somebody may
I mean, you're talking
give up their job somewhere else to come here,
you're talking
Can't rotate.
at the end of the day. I know you're talking 71,000 in a $86 million budget.
Yeah, the
It's not
question,
2800.
At least it's not.
the question brought up to me was, so it looks like he's given himself the authority to create himself a job if he can get the votes. But I do understand he's already got a job. His job classification is not going to change his location. But it's drawn some questions from the community that is so is he gonna did he get on the school board to create himself another position? But since the positions are really not changing, I don't think you can justifiably say that. But it's just optic.
Well, and
Well,
sometimes
there-
misleading information is given to
No.
Well, when Jackie Matheny clarified that it was not a floater,
Right.
that cleared up a lot of stuff that was out there, thinking it could be floating from here to there, but that it would not be a floater. It would be a stationed SR position, right?
That moves from place to place.
As needed.
As needed.
But they would be.
But any SRO could be moved.
That's true.
It might not just be that person. You could be moved from another school to another school. Captain.
Mr. Chairman.
Sir.
Over the years, well, 3 children going through Warren County High School, and then the last few years, I spent a little bit of time out the east side. But I'm very proud that Warren County was one of the first in the state that implemented a SRO at every school. I mean, that's something we could be proud of. And if I go to the east side, sometimes Mr. Jason, if I need to go to a certain room or something, I'll just, if he's handy, I'll just get him to walk with me. If there's a kid that's out in the hall or anything, he knows these SROs, they know most of the kids by first name. It's incredible what a good job they're doing. And also,
No, them escorting you to the classroom gives me a little pause.
no, it's keep me from getting lost. Keep me chasing lost. That was a good.
But just know the kids, I know the grandparents were in the parking lot. So.
But it's good in a case like his where he's a member of that community. He knows the parents, he knows the kids, he knows the background and the history. And lots of times in custodial, out here in the elementary schools especially, when you have custodial problems, I'm talking about parental, not the custodian,
Right.
but different word. But, if that SRO and the principals might have a conference with the parents or the grandparents or whatever, and there's a problem, that SRO don't necessarily get in there and he don't get involved in the discussion, but he will sit out there in the little outer office just to where he's in earshot and they can see that uniform, and that's a real deputy. That's not a rental officer. That's a real deputy, and he's got a real car out there that he can put you in and take you to a real jail. And that makes all the difference in the world.
I appreciate you saying that. And again, I will just say, I will just say, I know the school system's not perfect, and I've never said that we are. But Warren County is very fortunate to have what we have. We're doing some really good things. And
No
so
doubt about it.
I appreciate the fact that you all are continuing to support us in this. And we're working hard for everybody in our community. And I think our SROs are a huge part of that too. So.
Call for the question.
Yes, exactly. That's what I was going to say.
I've got a motion to call for the question in discussion. Commissioner Bolden, is there a second? Second, Commissioner Savage. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, we're on to the vote. We've got a motion from Commissioner Bolden and a second from Commissioner Savage to approve the school's budget. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Right. I think you've got a few more for us.
Well, this one hopefully will be a whole lot easier. This is our school nutrition budget. And so you should have 2 pages. Looks just like this. Child nutrition budget. I think you're going too far, Tony.
Okay. Mine's not yellow that.
I'm sorry. We used a color printer. So yeah. So yeah. So this is an exciting budget, honestly, because I feel like I told you again way back sometime earlier in some other meeting that our school nutrition department's done a great job and fed more kids last year, which means in turn more revenue. And so their revenues are predicted to be about $1.5 million more. Just remember, we're CEP, so the more we feed, the more the state and local government and federal government will fund that program. And so they've done a good job of trying to get innovative with our local beef and with taking breakfast out and being available for kids, and a lot more kids are picking those up. Our breakfast program has gone from about $800,000 in revenue to an estimated about 1.3. And so we're really pleased with that. Now our expenditures are a little bit more. We're going to have to buy a truck for the maintenance to be able to haul all kinds of stuff to and from. Our personnel is going up. They're also trying to cover that bonus that we talked about for their employees. But at the end of the day, to try to be a little bit more efficient with our time, they're right at about where they have been all along. Their expenditures would be $3 million. The revenue would be $3 million. Their expenditures would be 4.3, which would put them right at about 1.3, 1.4, and going into their fund balance, which would leave them at 2.8 million in their fund balance. And again, that's kind of right where we've been all along with them. So, not as complex as our general purpose budget, but still happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions?
Motion to approve.
Motion from Commissioner Taylor. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Bolden. Anyone want to speak to the motion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you all.
Yes, sir. Okay, Justin, I'm gonna turn it over to you.
You got 50 pages.
Let's look at this.
Go to it how you want. I included the same 3-year review that we used previously before we discussed, when we first started talking about tax rates and raises, et cetera. However, you'll see the big black boxes are missing because I now have school and highway and everything in it. These are just the tax fund. I did not include food service. We just voted on it. It won't change at all. And so I left it out. I didn't include 116 because it's only going to be in the budget for 1 more year since we stopped using it 2 years ago. It's got 1 year left to hold out. But this includes all the raises that were approved. I've gone back in the last 2 days, put all the rate changes in. Today I put in the school cafeteria budget, the school GP budget, made sure they were up to date. So, I mean, this is what we're looking at for, this is a screenshot, this is as high level as you can get for, consolidated budget. I included the entire thing if you want to get in there and look at any of it. If you have any questions about any of it, but we kind of actually approved the whole thing, as a whole, so I can say this in full course. I have not prepped the publication for the Southern Standard. It actually, for the newspaper, I should say, the local publication that is actually distributed physically, unfortunately. I did. Well, they're the only publication that I'm legally allowed to publish in currently. Just saying. But the only thing that's not in here is number of employees. And this one actually has more detail in it than what I have to put there. But again, if y'all have any questions or you want to go into anything, it's all there.
All right, any questions concerning the consolidated budget? We've been over it and over it and over it. I think everybody.
I'm proud of it. I'm proud of it.
Well, I'll tell you.
I have a question
Resolutions are in here.
at the bottom where it says Warren County Budget and Finance Committee. Who's Chisty?
I'm
Ross.
sorry.
Oh, that's that new person.
That'll-
That's, hey, she should
Chief.
have been
Let
Jolly
me get over to
Rancher.
that page.
It should have been Jolly Rancher Ross.
Yeah.
We need that.
I'd like
fixed
a,
and made
I'd
it.
like an R
I haven't
50.
fixed it.
Oh,
50 Ross.
Yeah.
No, I got that. Noted.
Motion to amend.
Should have been Kisty.
Yeah. Something.
All right, guys. Any more questions over this budget before we motion to approve and put it in the paper and send it to the full court? It's been a long road.
What's the fund balance compared from last year to the next projected for next year?
Current in the general fund.
Yes.
We're expected to end this year at 14.5 million, and budgetarily we're expected to finish next year at 11.8. We got a $2.6 million budgeted loss, but like
We building it.
like Darcy Swallow said, we almost always budget a $2 or $3 million loss, and then we generally get close to breaking even. So realistically, we will likely end up at 15 million. But budgetarily, we're budgeted to finish at 39% of our expenditures. So almost 4 times where we would have been the year we just raised. And EMS is not quite as well off. They're at 32%. That's with 508,000. So we kind of turned them around. They're only budgeting a 90,000 loss this year.
So overall, what is our last year was what, 24% or something like that?
We were expected to finish last year, well, during budget season, we were expected to finish it, I think 30, like 30, somewhere in the low 30s. Now we're expected to finish almost 40.
Mr. Chairman,
Sir,
it's a great honor for me to make the motion to approve the consolidated budget.
I have a motion from Commissioner Cole Taylor to approve the consolidated budget.
I ain't seconding nothing you say.
Is there a second?
It's a great honor to second
There you go.
Commissioner Tommy Savage. Second.
She's saying the honorable
with a
commissioner.
fund balance like that.
Is there any more discussion?
You know, a lot of people don't realize what time we invest in doing this stuff. Phone calls we make, the time we really spend. I know, that's what I'm telling you.
6
Think a
minutes
lot of
on my
people-
ball game.
A lot of people don't realize the time we
I
spend.
know. I can
As a
imagine.
as a committee, and I mean, with Terry Hall
Imagine
and all,
you guys that's got children, you're missing a lot of prime time.
Yeah, that's what I'm complaining about.
I'm
I got a granddaughter playing softball.
taking a break.
I'll make the motion.
With that discussion, I'd like to say thank you guys for working hard.
We appreciate you.
These guys work their, and gals work their tails off.
Cheers.
to make
Cheers.
sure
Cheers.
That we do a good job with this thing. We do the best we can. We're not perfect.
Don't even spell her name right. You appreciate her so much.
Yeah. I'm the
Now, you're the
female
only one got a
over here.
nickname.
I'm gonna tell you, there's a guy told me,
Mr. Chairman, am I gonna have to call for this
No,
question?
I gotta tell this right here real quick. There was a guy told me that's pretty closely connected to Commissioner Rubley,
No, this is gonna be bad.
said that when he gets a phone call, said if he's walking back and forth, he's talking to somebody about nursery. But if he's out there in the parking lot walking in circles, it's concerned in the county commissioner.
Probably not wrong. I'm gonna check myself on that. Okay, any more discussion?
Thank you for doing such a good job, Scott.
Yes,
Y'all
thank you,
work
Scott.
hard. Hey, no more discussion. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. And we're not finished.
I will talk fast if you will
Okay,
vote fast.
go right ahead.
Yeah.
Let's get on.
So, budget amendment 5 is a line item transfer. This is for the 23-24 school year. Just to answer a question we got in financial management. So this is the end of the year for us, trying to clean up some things. Budget line item transfer number 5 is from the SPED pre-K grant. And we're just simply reallocating money that's not been spent into materials and supplies so that we can spend it and get it again next year. So I would ask that you all, but financial management approved it unanimously. Just ask that you all would consider that as well.
Motion, Commissioner Taylor, second Commissioner Ross. Anyone want to speak to the motion? If not, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Budget amendment line item transfers number 6, a little bit more, but again, it's line item transfers. A lot of this was based on the fact that the board voted to provide more for insurance for our employees, and so we're at the end of the year trying to clean that up by putting it into the lines. One thing that's not is that our electric bills are a little higher, and so we're moving $55,000 over to cover our electric bill. And again, this past financial management unanimous.
So ESG's not working for you.
It is, but it, like Christie, is more expensive for everybody.
Okay, line item transfer.
Motion.
$189,000. Motion from Commissioner Ross,
Second.
second Commissioner Bowles. Anyone want to speak to that motion? If not, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Last one for us is General Purpose Fund 141 budget amendment. This is not a line item transfer. This is a budget amendment. We had some needs in different programs. We're taking money out of textbooks, equipment, and contracted services to cover several things. One of which is a teacher that was moved to another program. I told you about special ed and the federal budget. I'm losing my brain
This
at
is
this
more
point.
Escher.
No, it's actually, we're going back the other direction, yeah, back to GP. And then we always have at the end of the year a cleanup on our transportation. That's the biggest ticket item, 97,000, to cover overages for routes and gas and anything like that. So again, passed financial management unanimously.
Motion.
Motion, Commissioner Bolden. Second, Commissioner Savage. Anyone want to speak to that motion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, thank you, Mr. Wallace.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, sir.
Okay, we're down to review budget amendments transfers. Justin, we've got,
Just the one for the sheriff's department.
okay, yeah, this is for the sheriff's department. We have the obligation to extradite a couple of prisoners from Arizona.
New
Mexico.
New Mexico. And Jackie's gonna need about $1,000 to cover that. And motion, he's bringing that out of law enforcement equipment. Motion from Commissioner Ross to approve. Second, is there a second?
From Taylor.
Mr. Taylor, is that,
She's still told.
those are wishes? Right here, second. Second from Commissioner Taylor.
We've gotten into a state of delirium.
Anyone want to speak to that motion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Must be some bad boys people.
Okay, any public comment?
Lots of it.
Y'all got
Everybody good? Speak now, forever hold your peace. Okay, Justin, anything else?
Nope. Mr. Chairman,
The chair recognizes Commissioner Cole Taylor.
good job, Budget and Finance Committee. I've enjoyed it, but I want to
Motion
adjourn.
adjourned.